Morning, Dr. Geoffrey here. The world has changed, and boy, it is changing fast. It's changing fast, and it's one that we have to stay on top of. I'm Dr. Geoffrey Mount Varner, crisis and split-second decisions expert. I train executives, companies, teams how to manage crisis, how to manage change, and how to make split-second decisions. And in this period of time of COVID, where we all have become executives within our own household, I also teach executives, household executives, how to manage split-second decisions. But today, we're going to talk about leadership. When I say leadership, I mean, how do we motivate our team during a crisis? How do we get our team on the same page during a crisis? How do we get our team on the same page during a crisis? And slow down. We're going to use COVID as our framework, as our example. Because let's be clear, as a public health expert, things are going to get bleak and dark, but you're going to be okay. But what it also means is your leadership, and whether or not you're just leading a team of you and your family, or a team of execs, or your entire team, there's some steps, some must-knows that you must have to help lead us through this crisis. And I can tell you, having led through several crises, this is the period of time where leadership is key, and getting your team on the same accord is absolutely key. We're going to jump right into it. It's 4 things you need to know. One is to be as transparent as possible. As relates to COVID, for instance, we're going to use COVID as our example. You need to be transparent with your team at work, even as it relates to like COVID, because no matter what industry you're in, COVID impacts that. The current data shows that we have over 10 million cases, and those cases are rising rapidly. We have 239,695 deaths. And the transparency is, if we do nothing, we will reach over 400,000 deaths before the end of the year. Sounding kind of bleak, right? You got to be transparent. 2, share the downside of doing nothing. But there's an A and the B to this. Share the downside. Let them know how it impacts them. You've got to let them know how it impacts them, because everyone at their heart is self-serving. You've got to let them know that if the organization or you do nothing, it could lead to job loss. It could lead to someone in the family or within the organization getting sick. Part B of this is, now this is going to seem contradictory, you have to soothe their pain point. I don't care who they are. Everyone is a little scared. You've got to soothe their pain point. And the way you do this is with number 3, clear objectives, and you have an optimistic attitude about it. Let's just use COVID for an example. While things are bleak, that's the transparency. Things are going to get dark, that's the transparency. But what's clear is that the data is consistent and it's clear. If you follow the CDC guidelines that the country follows, especially wearing masks, do you know that even without a vaccine, we can decrease this? We can decrease the virus by 80%. By 80%, just by wearing a mask. But your clear objective, and don't forget, we're using COVID for the example, is, hey, as an organization, we're going to assist in decreasing COVID transmission by 50%. And decreasing the number of deaths by 50% by January 1st. Except you have clear objectives as it relates to your organization. And by the way, the objective that I just gave you as it relates to COVID, it's achievable. And this is where I am using COVID. As we go through these difficult times, looking for the government, looking for Fauci, looking for everybody, we are in crisis mode. It's go time. This is go time. That means we all must become leaders. We all must become ambassadors for doing our part, especially within our organizations, within our families, to make sure that we cure or that we do our part as it relates to cutting the transmission. And then also, you have to have a strategy, and your team has to weigh in there. You have to have a strategy, and your team has to weigh in there. For instance, within an organization, especially for those organizations that they have to come in, you can say, hey, our strategy for how we're going to decrease the transmission is we're going to check everybody's temperature. We're going to work from home every other day, so forth and so on. But you apply the strategy in terms of managing crisis. You apply a strategy outside of COVID to your organization. Now follow me on this point. Follow me on this point. Let's just use COVID for an example. While the Biden team is getting their COVID commission set up, their COVID team set up, doesn't mean we sit and wait. Same within your organization. We don't sit and wait within our organization. We've got to do something now. Everyone's got to do something. So you've always got to be doing something towards the objective. All right, let me give you this example. Deputy Mayor of Washington, D.C. wants to share this with me. Every morning in the Serengeti Desert, every morning a gazelle wakes up and says, "Hey, in order to survive," I'm sure you've heard this before. In order to survive today, I've got to run faster than the fastest lion, because otherwise the lion's going to eat me. But also, waking up on that same morning is a lion that says, hey, I've got to run faster than the slowest gazelle, because otherwise I won't eat. I'll starve. What's my point? Everybody needs to be waking up, running, doing something, running towards some goal, some objective towards the organization. While the plans are being developed, while we are strategizing, everyone on the team needs to be motivated on the same accord to striving towards that objective. Crisis is go time. Crisis is go time. It is not the time for anybody to be sitting back. If you sit back on this one, there's a very good chance, using COVID for an example, there's a very good chance that you may not survive. Your organization may not survive. Your family may not survive. I want to be crystal clear. I'm not hyping this. I'm not souping this. As relates to COVID, we're in a crisis, but there's a lot of lessons that we can learn from a crisis. So whenever there's a crisis, it leaves two things. It leaves a lesson and it leaves a gift. I don't think we're at the gift phase yet, but we have to learn lessons as we go and apply them to our organization. And I want to be clear. These are difficult times. If you're feeling a little scary, if you're feeling a little stressed, it's okay. You got to be gentle with yourself. That's not unreasonable. In fact, I would say most people have experienced some kind of stress, some amount of anxiety, while temporary. If people are honest with you, they have. But here's the beauty. It's okay to experience that. You just cannot stay there. And as leaders of teams, of families, and of organizations, you also cannot let those that you lead see that. You have to assist them with their emotional support. And you do that by being transparent, by sharing the downside of where you're going, by having clear objectives, and by having a strategy in mind. Everybody. While things are going to get bleak and dark, it doesn't mean that things are going to end. There's always, things can get better, and they're going to get better very, very soon. And here's the last part. In case someone within your organization within your organization or family gets COVID, be prepared for it. Because keep in mind, 97% of people manage this at home. Attached to this, and I would is something. Put in your search bar. And it's a bit.ly. Put in your search bar. It gives you all the information that you need to manage COVID at home. But at the end of the day, we are all becoming crisis managers. We're all becoming split-second decisions expert. Let's maximize that. because after all, we're all in this together.